Hey there, welcome to Brosé. Just a couple of bros drinking rosé and talking fitness. I am your host, Mike Garrity, the strongest comedian on earth, and I'm here with my co-host, Dr. D, acupuncturist, doctor of Chinese medicine, nutritionist, kinesiologist, and philanthropist. Maybe. I'll have to Google that one. You know what the deal is. You listeners and viewers, you send us questions, we go over the questions, we answer them. So let's get started. Here's the hot five for today's episode. A little lint. How do you find the daily macros for maintaining body weight?
It's a body weight calculation, but it's not, macros aren't the thing that maintain the weight. So we'll come back to that. But easy answer is body weight.
Okay, I said, how do you maintain body weight? Your answer is body weight. I do have follow-up questions. Next question. If I have diarrhea, is it better not to take any medicine or anything, just so I can empty it all out, get it all out?
No.
Well, I mean, I have more follow-up questions for that one. What are your thoughts about this trending diabetes drug that all the rich people are abusing so they can get skinny?
Umpenzic, the new one.
Yeah.
It could be a good drug for diabetes, and it could also be useful for fat loss or weight loss. So it could be good on both fronts.
All right.
We'll talk about why.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Here's something I heard on the Joe Rogan podcast. They're talking about how chiropractors are kind of full of malarkey because they claim that they can help kids not wet their bed or get a spinal adjustment instead of taking a vaccine, things like that. You heard anything about that? You know anything about
using chiropractic for those things, yes. I mean, we can kind of unpack that a bit if you want, but it's not something I would recommend.
We will dive into that. Do you believe it?
No.
Yeah?
That it works?
Yeah. How about we don't get vaccines?
Most of the time, no.
And I just pop your back.
Oh,
Next
no.
question. How do I get better at caber toss?
Tossing capers.
Okay. Well, I have a follow-up question for that too. So I'm gonna make sure to get an answer for that because I have personal investment with that one. Is there any of these that you want to talk about right away, or should we just go through from top to bottom?
No, dealer's choice, Mike.
Soup
what do you
to
want
nuts. Well,
It was a random 5.
Huh? Well, we have more. Every person's an individual, and they're unique, and they have their own views, and therefore their own questions.
But the first thing you talked about, though, of saying, like, how do you maintain body weight with macro calculations? Right. And I had said to you, well, you do the calculations based on body weight. To be clear, when you try to find a place to maintain like body weight, it's with calories, and that's off a kind of a body weight calculation. The macros have less to do with maintaining the body weight. They're more about like the composition of the body. It's the total energy we consume or calories that really have more to do with the body weight, which is why I said that.
All right. So maybe a more specific question for this would be helpful because that's not the answer I want.
Oh, well, by all means, let's get you the answer you're looking for, Mike.
All right. Let's say I'm like, hey, I want to get into weightlifting. Mm-hmm. I don't want to lose any weight, and I don't really want to put on any muscle. But I do want to.
You want to get more stronger?
I want to get stronger.
It's more of like a relative. So this is actually a really good conversation, in a conversation that I tend to have with people when they're new to the health and wellness world, which is you don't necessarily just eat for your body type. You also eat for the stimulus of your training, the type of your training, right? So what you just described about saying like, I don't want to get more bigger and I don't really want to get more smaller. I just want to get more stronger, right? And if you want to get stronger without changing your body weight, that's kind of a relative capacity. And we see this a lot with fighters or wrestlers where there's like a weight class. And you're like, I want to get stronger, but I want to stay at 180 pounds kind of deal. There's a way to train for that. And it has to do with the way that we load someone in their training with their neurological stimulus or their neurological loading. And then we don't put them at a massive surplus or deficit. We just kind of undulate little variances of a little bit more calorie or energy than you use and a little less to maintain their body weight. And that's how you do it.
Sounds like a guess and check method.
Yeah. I mean, that's kind of a lot of, there's general ideas and then there's execution.
Okay, this one I think is even more interesting and harder. So let's say I'm 247 pounds.
You take pride in that? You want to make it harder for me?
No, what I'm doing is warping this listener's question to satisfy my own quest for knowledge. Okay, I'm 247. I want to lose fat and get to 225.
Yeah.
That's not shredded for me. That's like 4-pack, whatever. So I got to get to I have a deficit so I can lose that 25 pounds.
Yeah.
Once I get there,
Yeah.
how do I set my calories to stay there? Because I don't want to go back to a surplus. I don't want to be at a deficit anymore.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So so you're saying like I'm at 247. I want to get to 225. I want to drop.
I hit a
20
deficit
pounds.
for a while. Once I hit my goal weight,
Yeah.
how do I know how to eat after that?
So what ends up happening is the amount of energy it takes to run your rig at 247 is here.
Right.
And then the amount of energy it takes to run your rig at 225 is about here. So as you're at a deficit here at 247 and you run that until you get to this weight, if you continue eating that amount, your body will adapt to that and it will be much less of a deficit at that 220 weight. So
that deficit becomes your maintaining.
it's conceivable that it would actually become your
That
maintaining.
fucking sucks.
Well, but here's the other thing too, is that, and this is why it can be good to undulate or change the amount of
I know what
food
undulate
you're
means.
Good job. It's important though to take holidays from your dieting or try some different things because just the adaptation to that is a normal part of the physiology. And that's a good thing. That's a good thing because it can kind of prevent us from starving in a way, right?
Right.
But it becomes more challenging when you're living at this, what you perceive to be a deficit, even though it's smaller. And then you're going to have that incidental, like, I just went above occasionally, and that'll maintain you. And the best way to do it is to track it.
All right. So basically, the answer is just be okay with being hungry. Next question. Okay. Here's where some Mike logic is maybe going to stump the doc here. If I have diarrhea, is it better to not take any medicine just so I can get it all out, empty it all out?
No. Well, unless if what you're doing is trying to mitigate the symptom, but you're not resolving that root issue, and you've got bacterial infections that are causing that gastrointestinal distress, less in an acute space and more chronically, then it's not going to behoove us to try to reduce that symptomology. So if you're saying, hey, I've got, hot flaming Cheeto diarrhea all the time because of a low-grade bacterial infection, but it's cool because I just take Imodium. Well, that's not going to solve our issue. It could actually make it worse. So we don't want to do that.
Better than just not taking Imodium and also.
Well,
not
yeah,
doing
for your
anything.
symptoms, for sure.
Right.
But you want to resolve that issue. So in most cases, what I would say is you're always better off taking the medication to resolve something, especially if you're doing it under the instruction of your medical professional. And also, there are situations in which you don't want to retain or stop, put an antipurgative on board. You might, in some cases, want to let everything kind of work its way through the system.
So basically, always try to stop your diarrhea, and unless you need to punish yourself for being naughty, right? All right, this is the crazy one.
This is the crazy. We did
Yep.
the diarrhea.
The diarrhea one was based in logic and humor. So this one, this is the chiropractic one.
Oh.
So, like, I've heard chiropractors, like the original chiropractor, learned everything about it from a seance. Also heard that on Joe Rogan.
Yeah.
So is chiropractic, is it malarkey or is it real?
Well, there's a reality to chiropractic adjustment. Most chiropractic comes from evolution of different medicines. So like the Chinese had their version, the French had their version. And it's really about the general idea of trying to manipulate the nervous system through the spine, which is a great idea. And what we find in some of this idea of saying we could, I think one of the things you had in there was wet in the bed enuresis, right? So here's where this becomes an issue. And this was something I think that, if I remember correctly, was more in the 70s that the chiropractors were having this issue, which was they were coming out and putting advertisements out to say, hey, I can fix your kid's bedwetting with chiropractic. And there was a great deal of regulation put along that type of claim in advertising to say, you guys can't do that anymore. And so we haven't really seen it a lot recently, but there's this kind of anthropological root of that medicine in that kind of charlatan behavior. Now, here's what I'll say. I have very dear friends of mine that are chiropractors, some unbelievable chiropractors that I've gone to and referred people to over the years that are dear friends of mine, and I absolutely think it's worthwhile because you can absolutely improve someone's life by creating chiropractic adjustment in the spine and other joints. If you adjust the vertebral level or the spine level of a nerve that supports an organ, let's say, it's theoretically possible that if a lesion or something occluding that nerve that feeds an organ is impacted positively by an adjustment, that you could see improvement in the byproduct or outcome of that organ. That does not mean that by simply adjusting at any vertebral level, you are in fact going to protect someone from a viral or bacterial infection, that you are going to fix a medically identified issue, but it's possible. And I think the issue that people generally have with that is if you're saying it could happen versus it's going to happen. And so no, I would say don't go into that type of chiropractic expecting that to be fixed.
Sometimes I don't know what the hell you're saying.
You didn't understand that?
I understood the words.
Maybe you need a
the
chiropractic
question,
adjustment.
All right, the question was, what about back pain? Does it help for that? Don't say possibly. Are you a chiropractor?
No.
Then what the hell do you know? Next question. How do I get better at the caber toss? And earlier you said toss cabers, and I would caution you not to say that to me again.
What? Do you have a caber?
Well, I have easy access to
Telephone poles. Okay,
and
yeah,
a pickup
okay.
truck.
Right. See, I'm really you're getting to know me because you make comments about bacteria, and I'm getting to know you to understand someone's losing power tonight.
I can't toss a caber I'm fucking throw some of your own medicine back down your throat. Caber toss is a feat of strength, not a way to build strength.
True.
So how do I build strength to accomplish that feat of strength better?
Unless the feat actually requires you to throw something of load. So in this case,
it's essentially a compound lift, though, and that's doing a couple things poorly instead of
no, it's effectively an Olympic lift. That's what it is. So a caber toss, so for anybody who doesn't know, it's your telephone pole, right, against the shoulder, under the hands, and basically you're trying to toss it.
A couple running steps and see how
toss
far
it
you can
forward
throw it.
to try to get it to land on its top and tumble over. It's a Highland game activity, right?
Right.
So I understand you know why you would want to do this, but it's
because the English won't let us train with weapons, so we have to train with telephone poles.
Is that the original reason as to why that Highland game existed?
I'm gonna say yes.
Tracks. Sounds right.
I don't fucking know.
So if you have differing sizes of pole, you would have different loads, and you could progressively work yourself up to heavier loads, and that is a form of training. But don't forget this, Mike. In any sporting event, there's a skill component, and your ability to get stronger at the skill will make you better and more proficient at the actual sport. So when it comes to a tossing of caber, the technique of throwing it and the position is a large component of your ability to actually get it to tumble. Your strength is obviously a part of it as well.
That's why in 2004, a guy named, his name was Haggis McClintock, he came from a ballroom dancing background. No, he came from a ballroom dancing background. And because of his skills as a ballroom dancer, had the footwork and the body knowledge to get better at it's basically the same thing as throwing a woman in the air. It's like throwing a caber in the air. So he dominated the Highland Games in the early aughts.
You serious?
I made all of that up.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, here's the next part of the...
but if you want to get better at it, and I mean this, it's deadlifting, it's snatching, it's the clean. Like those actually have some transitive properties into tossing caber. It's an open chain movement that is compound lifted that looks like an Olympic.
Oh, I had a follow-up question about the diabetes drug I just thought of.
That's a hell of a segue, Mike. Yeah, what do you got?
Wait a minute, we asked that question. Did we talk about that yet?
No, Penzic?
Let's just go to that, because I thought I must have misplaced the card.
Okay, fair enough.
This is live, folks. If I make a mistake, you make it with me.
You didn't make a mistake. You just randomly thought of diabetes drug.
Yeah, well,
right
what's the
after
deal
it
with
killed.
that? Rich diabetes folks can't get their medicine now because Gwyneth Paltrow only eats candles.
So I think your question is, wait, what? What is your question? Did it
This
work?
diabetes drug is working for people for weight loss.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? Is that healthy? Is that okay?
That's nothing new either.
Can I take some drugs so I can lose weight on a surplus of
So
calories?
the history of using diabetic drugs, whether it's metformin or Ompenzic or any of these things. I mean, that's been done for years. People in the functional medicine and functional fitness type world, exercise world, have used diabetes drugs, which lower your blood sugars, right?
For weight loss?
Yeah. So this is nothing
So you're
new.
okay with it?
It obviously depends. I mean, there's risk factors depending on any pre-existing conditions, but in these cases, part of the reason why it's working is that, and most of the reason why it works is because it's an appetite suppressant. And so what it's ultimately doing is making it easier for you to maintain that deficit. So when you were talking about, hey, I'm 247, I want to be 220, and I'm at a deficit,
so you can't just stay at a calorie surplus and take the drug?
No.
All right. Okay, I got a question. Should I get diabetes so I can lose weight?
No, that's definitely not it.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that was Brosé. We have been Mike Garrity and Dr. D. And remember to get your bros spayed and neutered.